tolerated such gatherings as aforesaid, composed of other slaves than their own, shall be sentenced individually to indemnify their neighbors. It seems like I've read this already. I did. All right. Let me just finish. Composed of other slaves than their own, shall be sentenced individually to indemnify their neighbors for the damages occasioned by said gatherings, and to pay for the first time a fine of 30 livres and double that sum on the repetitions of the offense. Article 15. We forbid Negroes to sell any commodities, provisions, or produce of any kind without the written permission of their masters, without wearing their known marks or badges, and any persons purchasing anything from Negroes in violation of this article shall be sentenced to pay a fine of 1,500 livres. Yeah, I did read all that. Well, I guess the ancestors wanted you to hear it again. Articles 16, 17, 18, and 19. Provide at length for the clothing of slaves and for their substance. Article 20. Slaves may give information thereof to the Attorney General of the Superior Council or to all the officers of an inferior jurisdiction, and may put the written exposition of their wrongs into the hands upon which information, and even ex officio, shall the information come from another quarter. The Attorney General shall prosecute said masters without charging any cost to the complainant. It is our will that the regulation be observed in all accusations for crimes or barbarous and inhumane treatment brought by slaves against their masters. Article 21. Slaves who are disabled from working, either by old age, disease, or otherwise, be the disease incurable or nor, shall be fed and provided for by their masters, and in case they should have been abandoned by said masters, said slave shall be adjudged to the nearest hospital, to which said master, right there, I was on 22, shall be obligated to pay 8 cents a day for the food and maintenance of each one of these slaves, and for the payment of this sum, said hospital shall have a lien on the plantation masters. Yeah, that's where I left off at. Okay, so now we're at Article 2. That was just a pre-cap, which a very imperative one. We need to take that in and really become conscious. Like, let's stop walking around like we're dumb and unintelligent people. We're supposed to be the highest species on this planet, and like animals act, behave and have higher intelligence. Like, we need to get this shit together. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm not pointing a finger because I was deaf, dumb, and blind as well. But you can't consistently keep being spoken the facts, the rights, and you continue to delude yourself to a servitude by wrongs. You got to change the way you're thinking. You have to come out of that 3D paradigm dimension. We are no longer there. I can't emphasize that any harder. Like, come on. Really. It is your contract. It is your life. You did sign the contract, and it is your will. You have free will to do what you want to do. However, you realize that we are one consciousness, and everything has a consciousness. We are even connected to the table, the refrigerator, because there's one frequency of energy that this plane of dimension on what we call Gaia Earth renaissance on, and that's magnetism and electricity. And that's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So we got to get our thinking right, because liberation dwells within us. Can't nobody come from the outside and give it to us. Like, the de facto is not going to hand you liberation. So liberation requires to know thyself. by any means necessary. And that does not necessarily mean violence. In fact, violence won't even help you. We're going to have to do this mentally, because we're dealing so above, so below. And the issues that we are encumbering at now, you know what I'm saying, it's already happened in the ethers, what people call heaven. And we can actually find the real answers that we need today to take. It's not about taking anything back, because actually, we was falling and we allowed them to operate it. And they knew it coming back. You can't have something that's not yours and was not given to you on their own permission. You can't do that. They're wrong. Period. I don't see any right in that. But they going to stand until they go down. That's their prerogative as well. But we, as the original, and it just is what it is. I hope no one gets offended, because if I was in his shoes on the other foot, I just have to deal with it. But at this time, my mother sent me here, all right, in my spacesuit with melanin to correct the issues that we have created. And that's it. Like, it's no excuses. We can't keep pointing a finger, because although there are opportunists, we're allowing that shit. Because why? We don't want to become receptive of who we really are. And that's just quite ignorant and lazy. Bottom line, we got too much egotism within ourselves going on. We're going to have to drop that. You're going to have to humble to yourself, not humble to anyone else, but to yourself, and discipline yourself. And start to begin to conceive and perceive in the right frequency, because so a man thinketh, so a man is. No, it came out a little passionate, but I'm just tired of the bullshit. Like, we really need to wake up now. Like, no more excuses, no more. The information is like at our fingertips. There's no need to be in darkness no more at this time. And this darkness is what is harboring our oppression. And you may not think you're in oppressed or in oppression, but you really are. We really are. Article 23. I'm just going to go up to, what's this last one here? Article 33, and I'll do the rest later, because Article 23.
Mommy.
All right, Article 23. Monies shall be, masters shall be responsible for what their slaves have done by their command, and also for what transaction they have permitted their slaves to do in their shops, in the particular line of commerce, with whom they were entrusted, and in case said slaves should have acted without order or authorization of their masters, said masters shall be responsible only for so much as has turned to their profit. And if said masters have not profited by the dining or transaction of their slaves, the per curiam which the masters have permitted the slave to own shall be subjected to all claims against said slaves, after deduction made by the masters of what may be due to them. And if said per curiam should consist in whole or in part of merchandise in which the slaves have permission to traffic, the master shall only come in for their share in common with the other creditors. Now, let me just do an interjection of my opinion real quick. And this is this opinion is for my Albion kin. And when I say kin, I mean natives, people because, you know, there's only one consciousness. I don't consider anybody on the outside. I realize that we are only one big family, and that's what it is. So, but anyway, I'm not calling you slaves. And again, slaves is a term, is a derivative of Slavic. So we have to keep that in mind legally and lawfully, right? And you can hold that. You can stand on that. And actually, they probably wouldn't have any way to get out. But I mean, if any of these so-called acts, you may be able to have it kind of work for you in some sort of fashion, if you bring it, if you introduce it in the right platform and in the right standing. Because it seems to me that at certain levels, these so-called slaves do have certain type of rights, or can at least argue certain type of rights, because this is their act. This is what they're saying. So anyway, let me just move on. That's just an opinion. I'm not offering no legal advice. You know, you do the research. Article, I mean, if I was in that situation, I would consider it. You know, but, you know, then again, it's very tricky. Article 24. Slaves shall be incapable of all public functions and of being constituted agents for any other persons than their own masters, with powers to manage or conduct any kind of trade. Nor can they serve as arbitrators or experts, nor shall they be called to give their testimony either in civil or in criminal cases, except when it shall be a matter of necessity and only in default of, quote, white, unquote, people. But in no case shall they be permitted to serve as witness either for or against their masters. So now the differentiality between these two statuses is that the branded people that are now called Negroes, blacks, colors, African Americans, etc., you know, you fall under these codes. Again, I know I said that earlier. And you're subjected to this code. I don't want to call it law because it ain't law. But, and now when we're dealing with the Albions, which their nation they call Europeans, are you Slavic people? All right. So if you're Slavic people, and there's no, you know, you have to let them know that slave is a derivative of Slavic, and they are using the term incompetently and incorrectly. You know, and then you should adjudicate some of these remedies that they may be incorporated in some